At my daughter's engagement party, my ex-wife's new husband barred my path. You mean nothing to her now, loser. She doesn't want to see you, he snickered. I placed one quick call and walked out without saying a word. An hour later, the groom stormed out, hurled the ring to the ground, and yelled, "You never told me who your father really was." Can a single insult truly ignite a firestorm, one so cold and precise it burns down an entire empire built on lies? I spent 7 years as a ghost, lost in the shadows, but that night, at my own daughter's engagement party, I was forced to remind everyone exactly why I buried my old self in the first place. This isn't just some petty revenge fantasy, it's a story about a life, built on decades of deceit, being systematically torn apart, piece by agonizing piece. It all started with her. 7 years. That's how long it had been since Diane, my wife of 20 years, shattered my world. She walked out, not for another man, but for Victor Caldwell, a slick, silver-haired real estate magnate she claimed was her soulmate. The memory, it still burned like acid in my gut. Every single day. So when that cream-colored envelope arrived, announcing my daughter Olivia's engagement to some trust fund kid named Michael Fairchild, I stared at it like it was a viper. Cordially invite you. Right. It was Victor Caldwell's world, his party, his perfect image. I tossed the invitation onto the coffee table, a weary sigh escaping me as I headed to the kitchen. I needed a stiff drink. At 52, I still had the build, the sharp mind that had served me so well in a very different life. The life before I became Russell Webb, the loving husband and father. The life before I buried Alexander Volov, a man who built and destroyed empires from the shadows. Just then, the doorbell rang. It was Perry Blackwell, my only friend from the old days, the only one who still bothered to check in. "You got one, too?" he asked, stepping inside. I just nodded, pouring us both a whiskey. He settled into my worn leather armchair. "You going?" Olivia had called. She wanted me there. And you believe her? Perry took his glass, his eyes knowing. Or is this just another chance for Victor and Diane to parade their perfect life in front of you? My voice, I noticed, turned to steel. My daughter wouldn't do that. Perry just sighed, a long, tired sound. The same daughter who believed Victor when he said you were dangerous. The one who hasn't visited in 3 years. He had a point, a painful, bleeding point. She was manipulated. I insisted, my hand clenched around my glass. She was 18 when Diane took her, filled her head with lies. Now she's 25, engaged to some kid from Victor's inner circle. Perry studied me then. You sure you want to walk into the lion's den, Alexander? These people, they aren't worth it. I looked at an old photo on the mantle, Olivia's high school graduation. The last truly happy day before everything fell apart. My daughter is worth it. Perry just looked at me, a warning in his eyes. Then I hope you're prepared. Victor isn't known for subtlety or mercy. I offered a thin, cold smile. Neither is Diane anymore. And neither am I. After Perry left, I walked into my home office, my steps deliberate. I unlocked a hidden panel, revealing a safe I hadn't opened in years. Inside, the remnants of my former life lay waiting, documents, passports, a satellite phone I hadn't touched in 15 years. I powered it on. Still had a charge. Old habits. I dialed the only number stored in its memory. A gruff voice answered on the third ring. This number is no longer in service. The spider waits while the web trembles, I said, the code phrase feeling strange on my tongue after so many years. A pause. Then, Alexander, is that you? Hello, Dmitri, I replied, my voice flat, emotionless. I may need your services soon. I thought you were dead. That was the agreement, I said, a ghost of a memory flickering. Are you still in the business for old friends? Always. I hung up, returning the phone to the safe. Just a contingency, I told myself. Just in case. The Caldwell estate. 5 acres of prime real estate. I parked my modest sedan between a Bentley and a Ferrari, feeling distinctly, deliberately out of place. Security guards eyed me as I approached. Russell Webb, I stated. The guard's eyes widened slightly as he checked his tablet. He demanded my ID, scrutinized me, then finally, I was waved through. The grand ballroom was a glittering tableau of society's elite. Crystal chandeliers, a string quartet, champagne flutes clinking. I accepted a drink, scanning the room. Diane. She'd changed. The natural beauty I'd loved was now something more artificial, expertly highlighted hair, subtle cosmetic procedures, a designer dress. She laughed brightly, but I saw the tension around her eyes, the same tension she always had when she was hiding something. Mr. Webb. A young woman approached, intelligent eyes, a genuine smile. Tara Reynolds, Olivia's friend from college. She's told me a lot about you. All bad, I assume. I asked, my tone light, but the question was serious. Tara looked uncomfortable. Actually, she hesitated, she always spoke highly of you. Said you taught her to change her own oil and understand compound interest. My expression softened, just a fraction. She remembered that. Tara smiled. She remembers everything about before, she clarified, well, before the divorce. She's thrilled you're here, though she's nervous about how Victor will behave. How is she, really? I couldn't help asking. Tara glanced across the room. Happy about the engagement. Michael seems decent. But living in this world, she gestured to the opulent surroundings, it changes people. Sometimes I barely recognize the Olivia I knew in college. And Diane? I pushed. Tara chose her words carefully. Mrs. Caldwell is complicated. She maintains the perfect image, but there are rumors. Victor isn't always kind behind closed doors. Before I could respond, the crowd shifted. And then I saw her. Olivia. My breath caught. She had her mother's beauty, but my intensity. The determined set of her jaw, the analytical gaze. Her engagement ring caught the light as she spoke animatedly to a young man, Michael Fairchild, no doubt. As if sensing my presence, Olivia looked up. Surprise, then what might have been relief, flickered in her eyes. She excused herself, making her way toward me. Dad, she said, stopping a few feet away. You came. You asked me to, I replied simply. I wasn't sure you would after. She trailed off, the weight of years between us. I'll always come when you call, Olivia. The words hung, heavy with absence. She stepped forward awkwardly for a hug. I enveloped her, noticing how she tensed before relaxing into the embrace. I've missed you, I said quietly, a tremor in my own voice. I've missed you, too, she whispered, pulling back. Come meet Michael. As we turned, I caught Victor Caldwell's gaze across the room. The silver-haired man's eyes narrowed, his perfect smile faltering for just an instant before he whispered something to Diane. She looked over, her face paling when she saw me with our daughter. Victor began moving through the crowd, Diane reluctantly following. Olivia. Victor's voice boomed as he approached. The Hendersons want to congratulate you. Why don't you join them? His tone left no room for argument. He positioned himself between Olivia and me, his back to his stepdaughter. Webb, he began, his voice dripping with condescension, I don't recall seeing your name on the approved guest list. It was there, I said calmly. Right below, daughter's father. Victor's smile didn't reach his eyes. A technicality I should have addressed. This is a celebration for family and friends. I qualify as both. Diane finally spoke, her voice brittle. Russell, please, don't make a scene. No one's making a scene, Diane. I maintained eye contact with Victor. I came to congratulate my daughter on her engagement. Nothing more. You've done that, Victor said dismissively. Now, I think it's best if you leave before you embarrass Olivia further. I noticed nearby guests pretending not to listen, yet missing nothing. Olivia stood frozen beside Michael, who looked increasingly uncomfortable. The only embarrassment here is your behavior, Victor, I said quietly. Victor's face darkened. You think you can waltz in here and pretend to be part of this family? After everything? He stepped closer, lowering his voice, a sneer on his lips. Let me make something clear. You're nothing here. A footnote. The sad loser Diane was smart enough to leave behind. I remained perfectly still, my expression unchanged. Victor, emboldened by my silence, continued. Go back to your pathetic little life and stay there. Olivia has a real father figure now. She has me. His smug satisfaction grew with each passing second of my silence. The surrounding guests had created a bubble of space around us, a silent audience. Nothing to say, Webb? Victor taunted, leaning in. Not surprised. You never could stand up for yourself, could you? That's why Diane left. Why Olivia chose to come with us. My gaze shifted to Diane, who looked away, unable to meet my eyes. Then to Olivia, whose expression had transformed from embarrassment to something approaching horror. Dad, she started to say, moving toward us. But Victor raised his hand to stop her without even looking back. Stay where you are, Olivia. Your mother and I will handle this. Victor turned back to me. Now, as I was saying, I cut him off. I'd like to speak with my daughter. That's not happening. Victor stepped directly into my path. You're nothing to her anymore, loser. She doesn't want to see you. The words echoed in the sudden silence. Victor laughed, clearly enjoying the power play. Behind him, Diane placed a restraining hand on his arm, her eyes wide with a dawning fear. Too late. Michael moved to Olivia's side, his expression darkening as he witnessed Victor's behavior. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't clench my fists. The complete absence of reaction seemed to unnerve Victor more than any outburst could have. I understand, I said finally. I reached into my pocket and extracted my phone. If you'll excuse me. I turned and walked a few paces away, dialing a number from memory. It's me, I said quietly. Execute protocol severance. Full spectrum. A pause. Yes. Immediately. I pocketed the phone and walked toward the exit without looking back, ignoring the whispers that followed me. Diane hurried after me, catching me in the foyer. Russell, wait. Her voice trembled. That was uncalled for. Victor just gets protective sometimes. Does he protect you the same way? I asked, noting the almost imperceptible flinch my words produced. What's that supposed to mean? You know exactly what it means. I studied her face. Was it worth it, Diane? Trading 20 years of marriage for this gilded cage. I'm happy, she insisted, but the words rang hollow, even to her own ears. If you say so. I turned to leave. What was that call about? Anxiety crept into her voice. I paused at the door. Just catching up with an old friend. Inside the ballroom, the party had resumed its awkward rhythm when a commotion erupted near the main entrance. Bradford Fairchild, Michael's father and CEO of Fairchild Technologies, was engaged in an intense phone conversation, his face ashen. He beckoned his son urgently. Michael excused himself from Olivia and joined his father. Their heated whispers grew louder until Bradford's voice carried across the room. This cannot be true. Michael's reply was inaudible, but his expression shifted from confusion to utter disbelief. Victor approached them, champagne in hand, oblivious to the tension. Bradford, just the man I wanted to see about that investment opportunity we discussed. Bradford stared at Victor as if seeing him for the first time. Stay away from my son. And my company. He turned back to Michael. We're leaving now. The room fell silent as Michael walked woodenly back to Olivia. His face had hardened into an unreadable mask. Michael? Olivia reached for his hand. What's wrong? Who is your father, Olivia? Michael asked, his voice strained. Who is he really? What? He's Russell Webb. You know that. A security consultant. Confusion filled her eyes. No. Michael shook his head. That's not who he is. He pulled the engagement ring from his pocket and placed it on the table between them, the diamond glittering under the chandelier lights. I can't do this. You never told me who your father really was. He turned and walked away, following Bradford toward the exit. Olivia stood frozen, the abandoned ring glittering. She turned to Victor and Diane, her voice breaking. What is he talking about? What did you do? Victor's face had lost its color. Your father is obviously spreading lies to sabotage your happiness. What lies? Olivia demanded, her voice rising. What could possibly make Michael walk away like that? Victor had no answer. For the first time, uncertainty flickered in his eyes. In the parking lot, I sat in my car, watching the Fairchild's departure through my rearview mirror. My phone buzzed with a text message. Phase 1 complete. Subject's background disseminated to Fairchild Sr. Awaiting further instructions. I started the engine. The old, familiar coldness had returned, the detachment that had once made me so effective, so feared. 7 years of playing the defeated ex-husband, the abandoned father, had finally reached its end point. Now we begin, I said to the empty car, and drove away from the ruins of my daughter's engagement party. 3 days after that disastrous engagement party, I sat in a nondescript diner. The vinyl booth squeaked as Perry Blackwell slid in across from me. Jesus, Alexander, Perry whispered, reverting to my original name, a name he rarely used. When you said you might need contingencies, I didn't think you'd blow up your daughter's engagement. I didn't intend to, I admitted, stirring my coffee. But Victor crossed a line. So you revealed yourself to Bradford Fairchild. Do you know the risk you've taken? Perry leaned closer, his voice hushed. You've been Russell Webb for 15 years. Your old identity was buried for a reason. My expression remained impassive. Bradford needed to know who his son was marrying into. I simply had Dimitri inform him about. About what, exactly? That before I was Russell Webb, security consultant and family man, I was Alexander Volov. That I specialized in untraceable corporate dismantling and reputational destruction for clients who could afford my services. That I've been directly responsible for the fall of at least 7 Fortune 500 CEOs. Perry paled. You told him everything. Just enough. I took a sip of coffee. Bradford has his own skeletons. He'll keep quiet to protect Michael from the fallout. Besides, Victor forced my hand. And Olivia? What about her? Something flashed in my eyes then, a momentary crack in my composure. She'll understand eventually. She'll hate you for destroying her engagement. She already chose Diane and Victor over me years ago, I said, a bitterness I couldn't quite mask creeping into my voice. I have nothing more to lose. I placed several photographs on the table. Victor Caldwell has built his empire on facades, financial, social, personal. I intend to dismantle each one systematically. Perry examined the photos, Victor with various business associates, building plans, financial documents. This is extensive surveillance. I've been watching him for 7 years, I said. Gathering information, learning his weaknesses. Why wait until now? Perry asked, genuinely puzzled. My jaw tightened. I wanted Olivia to have her chance at happiness, even if it meant accepting Victor in her life. I stayed away, played the role of the defeated ex-husband. But when Victor humiliated me in front of her, he sent a message that I'm worthless, that my presence hurts Olivia. I paused. It's time to send my own message. Perry studied me. This isn't just about Victor anymore, is it? It's Diane, too. Diane made her choice, I said coldly. She wanted his money, his status. She gets to enjoy the collapse alongside him. And what about your old promises? Your vow to leave that life behind? That vow was to protect my family. My voice hardened. I don't have a family anymore. The bell above the diner door jingled as a young woman entered. Olivia. She spotted me immediately and approached, her face a mask of controlled fury. Excuse us, she said to Perry, who nodded and vacated the booth. How did you find me? I asked as she sat down, her hands trembling slightly. I remembered you liked this place. She took a deep breath. What did you do? Michael won't return my calls. His father has hired security to keep me away. I met her gaze steadily. I made a phone call. To whom? Saying what? When I didn't immediately answer, she continued, her voice rising, drawing glances from other patrons. Do you hate me that much? Was this punishment for staying with Mom after the divorce? I have never hated you, Olivia. Not for a moment. Then why destroy my engagement? I considered my next words carefully. Sometimes the truth is destructive all on its own. What truth? That's what no one will tell me. Ask your mother. My tone remained even. Ask her who I was before I met her. Ask her what she really knows about me. I'm asking you, she shouted. And I'm not ready to tell you. Olivia's eyes filled with angry tears. 7 years of barely speaking to me. And now you've ruined the most important relationship in my life. Was it worth it, Dad? The word Dad hit me harder than I expected. You'll understand someday. I understand perfectly now. She stood abruptly. Stay away from me. From all of us. I watched her leave, her parting words echoing those I'd heard countless times from targets whose lives I'd systematically dismantled. The familiar emptiness settled over me, the void where emotion should exist. My phone vibrated with a message from Dimitri. Phase 2 ready. Waiting for your green light. I typed my response. Begin. The headquarters of Caldwell Properties occupied the top 10 floors of a downtown skyscraper. In the executive suite, Victor Caldwell paced before floor-to-ceiling windows, phone pressed to his ear. What do you mean withdrawn? The Fairchilds committed to that investment last month. His face contorted with rage. Well, get Bradford on the phone and fix it. He hurled the phone across the room, narrowly missing his assistant, who had entered with a stack of documents. More problems? Asked a voice from the doorway. Lawrence Bishop, Victor's business partner and childhood friend, leaned against the frame, arms crossed. Bradford Fairchild is backing out of the River Heights development. 40 million gone. Victor collapsed into his chair. First, his son breaks off the engagement with Olivia. Now, this. Something's not right. Maybe it's related to the calls I've been getting, Lawrence said carefully. 3 of our investors have asked for emergency audits this week alone. Victor's head snapped up. Who? Martin's Ungroup, Apex Capital, and Hamilton Trust. Impossible. They can't just demand, actually, they can. The language is in their contracts. Lawrence approached the desk. Victor, what's going on? These are institutional investors who've been with us for years. Suddenly, they're all spooked. Victor loosened his tie. It's market jitters. Nothing more. Is it? Lawrence placed a folder on the desk. These arrived this morning, anonymous. Sent to my personal address. Victor opened the folder and froze. Inside were bank statements showing massive transfers to offshore accounts, transfers authorized with his signature. What the hell is this? He demanded, his voice a strangled shout. You tell me. Lawrence's voice had chilled. Because they look remarkably like records of you siphoning company funds. These are forgeries. Victor stood, face flushing. I'm being set up. By whom? Victor paced again, his mind racing. Webb, he said finally. Russell Webb. Lawrence raised an eyebrow. Diane's ex-husband. The one you humiliated at Olivia's engagement party. He's more than that. I don't know what he is, but the Fairchild seemed to. Victor, Lawrence said slowly, what have you done? Before Victor could respond, his assistant interrupted. Sir, Miss Caldwell is here to see you. Diane swept in, her designer handbag clutched like a shield. Our cards were declined at Bergdorf's, she announced without preamble. All of them. The sales associate said our accounts have been frozen. Victor and Lawrence exchanged glances. It's a banking error, Victor assured her smoothly. Like the investment property suddenly being underwater. Diane's voice rose, shrill with panic. Like the calls I'm getting from our friends saying they've heard rumors about financial irregularities. Who's been calling you, Victor? Everyone. Barbara Montgomery said her husband pulled their money from your fund yesterday. The Witters cancelled our dinner plans with some ridiculous excuse. Diane's perfect composure cracked. What's happening, Victor? Lawrence cleared his throat. I think I'll give you two some privacy. After he left, Diane faced her husband. Is this because of what you did to Russell at the party? Don't be ridiculous. Victor dismissed her with a wave. Webb is a nobody. A loser who couldn't keep his wife happy. Then explain what's happening. Victor avoided her eyes. A temporary cash flow issue. Nothing serious. Liar. Diane's voice was flat. You've been lying about our finances for months, haven't you? Those late-night calls, the mysterious meetings. You didn't seem to mind the benefits, Victor snapped, his own fear twisting into anger. The jewelry, the vacations, the status. You were happy enough to enjoy it all without questions. The accusation landed like a slap. Diane stepped back, her expression hardening. Fix this, Victor. Whatever it takes. After she left, Victor unlocked his private safe and removed a burner phone. He dialed a number from memory. Baker Security, answered a gruff voice. This is Caldwell. I need information on Russell Webb. Everything you can find. The standard rate. Money is no object. I want to know who he really is. Across town, in a modest apartment I'd rented under an alias, I monitored the bugs I'd planted in Victor's office months ago. I smiled thinly at the panicked conversation I'd just heard. My phone rang. Tara Reynolds, Olivia's friend, who unknowingly had become a crucial piece in my plan. Mr. Webb, it's Tara. I got your message about being worried about Olivia. Thank you for calling back, Tara. Has she told you what happened at the engagement party? Some of it. Tara sounded hesitant. She's devastated, confused. Did she mention that Victor blocked me from speaking to her? That he humiliated me in front of everyone? No, but that sounds like him. He's always controlling who gets access to Olivia and Mrs. Caldwell. I feigned concern. I'm worried about them both. Victor has a temper, doesn't he? A pause. How did you know? Just a feeling, I said casually, carefully steering the conversation. Tara, you work at one of Victor's companies, don't you? Yes, in marketing at Caldwell Development. Have you noticed anything unusual lately? Any signs of financial trouble? Tara lowered her voice. Actually, yes. There are rumors about payroll issues coming up, and some executives have been leaving suddenly. She hesitated. Why do you ask? Just connecting dots, I replied casually. Tara, would you be willing to keep an eye on things? For Olivia's sake, I'm concerned Victor might be dragging her and Diane into a bad situation. Of course, Tara agreed readily. Olivia is my best friend. After hanging up, I opened my laptop to check progress on the other fronts of my operation. Dimitri had successfully planted doubt with key investors. Lawrence had received the fabricated financial documents that were close enough to the truth to be believable. Most importantly, the real evidence of Victor's questionable business practices, evidence I'd been gathering for years, was finding its way to the right regulatory authorities. Anonymously, of course. My phone buzzed with a text from Perry. Victor hired Baker Security to investigate you. Time frame. I typed back. 48 hours until they find what I want them to find. The pieces were in motion. The first dominoes had fallen. Soon, Victor Caldwell would understand what it meant to awaken Alexander Volov from his self-imposed exile. Lawrence Bishop had never considered himself a particularly moral man. In business, especially real estate development, certain ethical corners were routinely cut. But as he reviewed the documents in his home office at 2 a.m, a cold dread settled in his stomach. The anonymous files detailed systematic fraud across Caldwell Properties' portfolio, inflated valuations, double-booked assets, phantom investors. If even half of it was true, they weren't facing a temporary cash flow issue. They were facing criminal charges. His phone rang, a number he didn't recognize. Mr. Bishop. The voice was deep, accented faintly with something Eastern European. I believe we have mutual interests to discuss. Lawrence straightened. Who is this? Someone who knows what Victor Caldwell has been hiding from you. Someone who can offer you protection when it all collapses. Is this some kind of blackmail? A soft chuckle. On the contrary. It's a lifeline. Victor has been systematically looting your company for years. The evidence is already with the SEC. You have, perhaps, 48 hours before the investigation becomes public. Lawrence's mouth went dry. What do you want? Distance yourself from Victor. Publicly. Immediately. Claim ignorance of his actions, which, based on your reaction to the documents I sent, is largely true. How do you know about those documents? Lawrence demanded, then realized. You sent them. Smart man. Unlike your partner. Why are you doing this? A pause. Victor took something from someone I respect. This is simply cosmic balance being restored. The line went dead. Lawrence sat motionless for several minutes. Then he began making calls, first to his personal attorney, then to a crisis management firm. By dawn, he had the framework of a plan to salvage what he could from the impending wreckage. At the Caldwell mansion, Victor awakened to an empty bed. He found Diane in the kitchen, still in her nightgown, staring at her tablet. You should see this, she said without looking up, her voice hollow. Victor took the tablet. On screen was a financial news website with the headline, Caldwell Properties Under Scrutiny. Co-founder Bishop distances himself from concerning practices. What the hell? Victor grabbed his phone and dialed Lawrence, who didn't answer. That backstabbing son of a, is it true? Diane asked quietly, her eyes wide with a dawning terror. Are we in trouble? Before Victor could respond, his phone rang. Baker Security. Mr. Caldwell, we have preliminary information on Webb. The investigator reported. It's unusual. What did you find? Victor demanded, his heart pounding. Nothing. Literally nothing before 15 years ago. Russell Webb appeared out of nowhere with perfect documentation, but no history. It's the kind of identity created by witness protection, or... The investigator hesitated. Or what? Or someone with very specialized skills and connections. The man's voice lowered. There are rumors in certain circles about an operative called the Architect, who disappeared around the time Webb appeared. Known for constructing and executing the systematic dismantling of individuals deemed untouchable. Victor's blood ran cold. Are you saying Webb is this architect? I'm saying it's a possibility you should consider. My advice? Whatever you did to anger this man, undo it. Immediately. Victor hung up and slumped into a chair, his mind racing. Could Webb really be some sort of professional destroyer? It seemed absurd. The quiet, defeated man he'd humiliated at the engagement party didn't match that profile. Yet, the timing was too perfect to be coincidence. Everything had started unraveling after that night. After Webb's mysterious phone call. Victor, Diane's voice broke through his thoughts. I asked if we're in trouble. He looked at his wife, still beautiful, but showing the stress of recent days. The woman who had left her husband of 20 years for the wealthier, more powerful man. We'll be fine, he lied, though the words felt hollow in his own mouth. I need to make some calls. He retreated to his study, locking the door before accessing his own set of offshore accounts, ones even Lawrence didn't know about. The balances were healthy enough to disappear and start over somewhere with no extradition treaty. Victor had always maintained an exit strategy. He just hadn't expected to need it because of Diane's ex-husband. His computer screen suddenly went black, then displayed a single message. Remember the man you called a loser? He remembers you. Victor stared at the words, a chill running down his spine. He reached for the panic button under his desk, the one connected directly to his security team. Nothing happened. No response. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. They can't help you. Victor rushed to the window and drew back the curtain. The security guards normally stationed around the property were gone. He was alone in the house with Diane, completely exposed. For the first time in decades, Victor Caldwell felt genuine, gut-wrenching fear. Across town, I sat with Perry and Dimitri in the rented apartment, monitoring the surveillance feeds from the Caldwell mansion. Victor's panic was palpable, even through the cameras. Phase 2 complete, Dimitri noted with professional satisfaction. His business reputation is in freefall. Lawrence Bishop has fully separated himself. The SEC investigation launches officially tomorrow. And the personal accounts? I asked. Flagged with multiple agencies, Perry confirmed. He can't access his exit strategy funds. We've effectively trapped him. I nodded. Begin phase 3. Are you sure? Perry looked concerned. Phase 3 directly impacts Diane and Olivia as well. They chose him, I said coldly. They can share his fate. Alexander, Dimitri said carefully, using my original name. You've accomplished your goal. Victor is ruined. Is the rest necessary? My expression remained impassive. Victor didn't just steal my wife. He poisoned my daughter against me. Made me a stranger in her life. This isn't just about punishment. It's about truth. They all need to see who Victor really is. Who I really am. I stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city below. And most importantly, they need to understand that betrayal has consequences. Consequences that can't be undone with apologies or regrets. Perry and Dmitri exchanged glances, but said nothing. They had known Alexander Volov long enough to recognize when his mind was set. The man who had once brought corporate giants to their knees without ever showing his face was fully awake again, and Victor Caldwell had become his personal target. The gala fundraiser at the Metropolitan Museum had been on the city's social calendar for months. Despite the whispers about Caldwell Properties' financial troubles, Victor and Diane arrived in their usual style. He in a tailored tuxedo, she in a couture gown that cost more than most people's monthly mortgage. "Smile," Victor hissed through his fixed grin as they posed for photographs. "Everything is normal." Diane complied, though the strain showed around her eyes. The past week had been a nightmare of frozen accounts, cancelled credit cards, and increasingly frantic calls from Victor. Their perfect life was crumbling, and she still didn't understand why. Inside, the reception was chilly. Former friends suddenly found reasons to drift away when the Caldwells approached. Conversations hushed as they passed. Lawrence Bishop greeted them with exaggerated cordiality, cameras flashing nearby. "So glad you could make it, you backstabbing parasite," Victor growled under his breath, maintaining his smile. "We built that company together," Lawrence sipped his champagne. "And one of us apparently decided to dismantle it alone." The SEC investigators had quite a lot of questions about those offshore transfers. "Fortunately, I had no knowledge of them." "Those records are fake and you know it." "Are they?" Lawrence's eyes hardened. "Because they match some discrepancies I've been noticing for years, but chose to ignore." "My mistake." Before Victor could respond, Lawrence turned to Diane. "I'm sorry you've been drawn into this, Diane. I know how important social standing is to you." The barb was delivered with perfect politeness. As Lawrence walked away, Diane gripped Victor's arm painfully. "What is he talking about? What offshore transfers?" "Not here," Victor muttered, guiding her toward the bar. As the evening progressed, Victor grew increasingly desperate. Key business relationships were disintegrating before his eyes as former allies publicly aligned with Lawrence instead. The whispers had become brazen discussions of Caldwell Properties' impending collapse. His last hope was Hamilton Woodward, whose investment firm controlled sufficient capital to potentially stabilize the situation. Hamilton. Victor approached the silver-haired financier with forced joviality. "Just the man I wanted to see." Woodward regarded him coolly. "Victor, I was actually hoping to avoid this conversation. I understand there have been concerning rumors." Victor began his prepared speech. "But I can assure you, save it." Woodward cut him off. "I received some very interesting documents yesterday. Recordings, actually." Victor faltered. "Recordings?" "Recordings of you discussing how you play investors like me. How we're stupid old men, easily manipulated by your projected confidence. How you've been misrepresenting assets for years." Woodward's expression was glacial. "Particularly illuminating was your joke about my daughter, the one you tried to seduce at my holiday party last year." The blood drained from Victor's face. "Hamilton, I never. My firm is formally severing all ties with Caldwell Properties. Effective immediately." Woodward turned to leave, then paused. "One more thing, the man who provided these recordings suggested I ask you about the loser you humiliated. I think you know who he means." As Woodward walked away, Victor scanned the crowded room frantically. Was Webb here? Watching his destruction unfold. The sound system crackled suddenly, the soft background music replaced by a familiar voice, Victor's voice, in mid-conversation. "Of course, the properties are overvalued. These investment dinosaurs don't know the difference. By the time they figure it out, we'll have their money, and they'll have worthless paper. The room fell silent as the recording continued, revealing Victor's contempt for investors, partners, even the charity organizations they claimed to support. Victor lunged for a nearby server who was controlling the sound system. Shut it off. But the damage was done. Hundreds of influential people stared at him with expressions ranging from shock to disgust. Diane had disappeared from his side. He found her in the coat check area, her hands shaking as she gathered her things. Diane, wait. Was that real? She demanded, her voice tight with fury. Those recordings. Of course not. The lie came automatically. Don't. Her voice was a raw whisper. Don't you dare lie to me now. Not after you've destroyed everything. I built everything. Victor snarled, grabbing her arm. Everything you enjoyed for the past 7 years. The homes, the vacations, the status you craved so badly. You left your husband for it. Diane wrenched free. I left Russell because you promised me security, a better life. And you delivered it, until Webb decided to tear it all down. She looked stunned. Russell. Russell is behind this. Your pathetic ex-husband isn't who you think he is. Victor's voice dropped to a harsh whisper. The man you left, the man I humiliated, he's systematically destroying us, using skills and connections neither of us knew he had. For the first time, genuine fear showed in Diane's eyes. What did you do, Victor? What did you do to provoke him? Outside the museum, I watched the Caldwells' argument through binoculars from a parked car. Beside me, Dimitri monitored the audio feed from the microphone in Diane's purse, planted weeks ago by Tara, who believed she was helping Olivia by keeping tabs on Victor's volatile behavior. She's finally seeing him clearly, Dimitri observed. Too late, I replied without emotion. The SEC moves tomorrow. Their assets will be frozen by morning. My phone rang. Olivia's number. I answered on speaker. Is it true? Her voice was raw, broken. Are you destroying Victor's business? His reputation? Who told you that? Mom just called. Hysterical. Said you've been planning revenge for years. That you're not who I think you are. I considered my words carefully. Your mother made choices, Olivia. Victor made choices. Now they're facing consequences. So it is you. She sounded shaken, lost. The business problems, the social humiliation, Michael breaking our engagement, all because Victor insulted you at a party. This was never about an insult. My voice hardened. It was about what they took from me. What they took from us. What are you talking about? Ask your mother about Alexander Volov. Ask her what she knew when she married me. When she left me. The line went silent for several seconds. Who is Alexander Volov? Me. I ended the call and turned to Dimitri. She'll search for information now. Make sure she finds exactly what we want her to find. As we drove away from the museum, my expression remained impassive. But inside, something shifted. Not regret, precisely. A recognition that some bridges, once burned, could never be rebuilt, even with my only daughter. 3 days after the gala disaster, Victor sat in his home office, surrounded by empty liquor bottles. The television droned with news of Caldwell Properties' spectacular collapse. Federal agents had raided their offices. Lawrence Bishop had turned state's evidence. Investors were filing lawsuits. Everything he'd built over decades, gone in a week. The security system chimed, announcing a visitor. Victor checked the camera feed to see Diane's ex-husband standing at his front door, alone and unarmed. Victor buzzed me in, too defeated to even feel anger anymore. I entered the office without knocking, my presence filling the room despite my casual attire. I surveyed the disheveled space, the unshaven man before me, with the clinical detachment of a scientist observing a failed experiment. Webb, Victor attempted bravado. Or should I call you Volov? Either works, I said, remaining standing. Though only one of those men officially exists. What do you want? Come to gloat over your handiwork? Just to deliver a message. It's not over. Victor laughed bitterly. What's left to take? My company's destroyed. My reputation ruined. My assets frozen. You still have your freedom. Temporarily. The implied threat hung in the air. Victor reached for his drink. How did you do it? All of it. Methodically. My tone was conversational. I placed listening devices in your home and office 3 years ago. Gained access to your financial records. Cultivated relationships with your associates to identify vulnerabilities. Why wait so long to use it? I was content to observe, to let you self-destruct naturally. My expression hardened. Until you decided to humiliate me in front of my daughter. Until you blocked me from speaking to her at her own engagement party. All this because I hurt your feelings. Victor sneered. No. All this because you're exactly who I knew you were. An arrogant fraud who stole my family and thought there would be no consequences. The front door opened and closed downstairs. Heels clicked on marble as Diane called out, Victor. She appeared in the doorway, freezing at the sight of me. What are you doing here? Hello, Diane. My voice softened imperceptibly. You're looking well, all things considered. Diane stepped into the room, her designer outfit contrasting with her exhausted face. Have you come to finish destroying what's left of our lives? That depends on Victor. I turned back to him. The SEC has evidence of your financial crimes. The FBI has recordings of you discussing bribery of government officials. You're facing decades in federal prison. Victor paled further. What do you want? A full confession. Every illegal act. Every person you've harmed. Delivered to the authorities tomorrow. You're insane. Victor scoffed. Why would I do that? Because I'm offering you a choice. Confess and receive a reduced sentence, or resist and watch as additional evidence emerges, implicating Diane as a knowing accomplice. Diane gasped. You wouldn't. I turned to her, my expression unreadable. Wouldn't I? You chose this man over our 20-year marriage. You helped turn Olivia against me. Why should I protect you now? Because you loved me once, Diane whispered, a flicker of desperation in her eyes. Love. I repeated the word like it was foreign. Did you think about love when you were planning your exit strategy? When you were transferring funds to your private account months before you left? Victor looked at Diane sharply. What private account? The one she opened 6 months before leaving you, I informed him. She'd been methodically preparing to leave you for over a year, Victor. Finding ways to maximize her position for the divorce. Diane shook her head frantically. That's not, don't bother denying it, I cut her off. I have the bank records, the lawyer consultations, everything. You weren't Victor's victim, Diane. You were his willing accomplice. In fact, you approached him first. Victor stared at Diane with dawning comprehension. You told me you were unhappily married. That Russell was controlling, possibly dangerous. She needed a justification, I explained dispassionately. A narrative that made her the victim rather than the betrayer. Is this true? Victor demanded. Diane's silence was answer enough. I continued. I'm not here to repair your broken relationship. I'm here to deliver terms. Victor confesses to everything tomorrow, leaving Diane's name out of it. Or I ensure you both face maximum consequences. Why would you protect her at all? Victor asked, a new kind of venom in his voice. I'm not protecting Diane. I'm protecting Olivia from seeing both her parents destroyed. I checked my watch. You have until noon tomorrow to decide. As I turned to leave, Diane followed me into the hallway. Russell, wait, please. I paused, but didn't turn. I made a terrible mistake, she said, her voice breaking. I see that now. Victor isn't who I thought he was. Neither am I, apparently, I replied coldly. It's not too late for us. Diane reached for my arm. We could start over. I still care for you. I finally turned, my eyes revealing nothing. 7 years ago, I would have given anything to hear those words. I would have forgiven everything. Hope flickered in her eyes. And now? Now I see you clearly. You're not returning to me because you love me. You're running from the consequences of your choices. I gently removed her hand. There is no us anymore, Diane. There never will be again. I walked away, leaving her alone in the hallway of the mansion that would soon no longer be hers. Outside, I sat in my car, allowing myself a moment of quiet reflection. My phone buzzed with a message from Olivia. I know who Alexander Volov is now. We need to talk. The small waterfront park was deserted in the early morning light. I sat on a bench overlooking the harbor, watching sailboats rock gently in their slips. This had been Olivia's favorite place as a child, where I taught her to skip stones and identify different birds. I sensed her presence before seeing her. She sat beside me, maintaining a careful distance. Did he confess? She asked without preamble. Yes. This morning to federal authorities. He'll likely serve 5 to 7 years. I kept my gaze on the water. Your mother was excluded from the charges. You did that? Yes. Olivia exhaled slowly. I spent all night researching Alexander Volov. There isn't much to find, but what exists is terrifying. You were a professional destroyer. Her voice held a mix of disbelief and awe. They called you the architect because you designed custom destruction for powerful people's enemies. I nodded. A specialized skill set. You disappeared 15 years ago, right before you met Mom. I wanted out. A normal life. A family. I finally looked at her. I buried Alexander as completely as possible. Became Russell Webb, with help from people who owed me favors. Did Mom know who you really were? Not at first. I told her after we were married, when she was pregnant with you. She accepted it. Or seemed to. Olivia processed this. And when she left you, she used that knowledge as leverage. Implied she might reveal my past if I fought too hard for custody. A muscle tightened in my jaw. She knew exactly how to ensure I'd back down. So, you let us go. I let you both go to protect you from my past. And then watched as Victor systematically turned you against me. Olivia stared at her hands. I believed him. Believed Mom when they said you were unstable, potentially dangerous. They weren't entirely wrong, but you weren't what they described either. She looked up, eyes glistening. They took away my father. And now you've taken away my mother's husband, my fiancé. Michael left on his own once he learned the truth, because you made sure he learned it. Olivia's voice rose, a tremor of accusation. Was that necessary? Destroying my relationship, too? I met her gaze steadily. Michael deserved to know who his future father-in-law really was. The choice to leave was his. And now what happens, now that you've destroyed everything? Victor pays for his crimes. Your mother starts over. And you? I hesitated. You live your life free from their manipulation. What about us? The question hung between them, heavy with 7 years of estrangement. can we repair what was broken? I considered my response carefully. I will always be your father, Olivia. That never changed. I paused. But trust, once broken, isn't easily rebuilt. You chose to believe the worst about me without question. You accepted their narrative because it was convenient. I was 18, she protested, confused, hurt. And in the 7 years since. The unanswered calls, the returned letters. My voice remained calm but firm. You made choices, too. Tears spilled down Olivia's cheeks. So, there's no forgiveness. No second chance. This isn't about forgiveness. It's about recognition. I stood, looking out at the harbor. Some damage can't be undone. Some betrayals leave permanent marks. What about Michael? Could you speak to him? Explain. I shook my head. That's not my responsibility. If he truly loved you, knowing your father's identity wouldn't have changed that. So, I lose everything because of who you are. No. My voice hardened slightly. You lose nothing because of who I am. The consequences you're facing come from the choices made by your mother, by Victor, and yes, by you. I turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I never stopped loving you, Olivia. Even when you stopped believing in me. I walked away, my steps measured and deliberate. Behind me, Olivia remained on the bench, face in her hands. The final phase of my plan was complete. Victor would serve his sentence. Diane would rebuild from nothing, without the wealth and status she'd betrayed her family to obtain. Olivia would find her own path, perhaps wiser about human nature. And Russell Webb, or Alexander Volov, depending on who was asking, would continue his solitary existence, neither hiding nor flaunting his true nature any longer. As I drove away from the waterfront, my phone rang. Perry's number. It's done, I answered without preamble. Are you satisfied? Perry asked. I considered the question. Satisfaction implied I'd been seeking emotional resolution. What I'd executed wasn't about feelings. It was about justice. Cold and precise. Justice was served, I replied finally. And your daughter? Any reconciliation? No. My tone was final. Some bridges can't be rebuilt. What will you do now? I glanced at the safe house address Dmitri had texted me. A place to lie low while the media frenzy around Victor's confession died down. Continue, I said simply. Just continue. The sun rose higher over the city skyline as I drove toward my uncertain future. Behind me lay the wreckage of those who had betrayed me. Not destroyed in a burst of vengeful rage, but dismantled with the precise, methodical skill that had once made Alexander Volov legendary. The man they had called a loser, the man they had dismissed and humiliated, had shown them exactly who he was. And who he had always been. So, after hearing all of this, what would you have done in my place? Was the price of this kind of justice too high, or do some betrayals demand nothing less? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to hear your perspective.